Okay, today I'm going to discuss 7 skills that all homesteaders should have. There's only one item on this list that could potentially be optional depending on what your homesteading goals are. But I believe that as a homesteader, you will need to acquire all the skills listed in order to be successful at homesteading. Homesteading can be a broad term. So in this context, I mean in order to be at least somewhat self-sufficient, be it with growing crops for yourself, selling to a market, or selling services to the public. So let's get right into it. The first and most practical skill of them all: gardening. Gardening isn't as simple as putting seeds in the ground and seeing what grows. There's an art to gardening to be successful. This includes understanding how to choose the right plants for your climate, how to prepare the soil, and how to care for and protect your plants against pests and environmental factors. If you can learn to garden well, you will be light years ahead of everybody else in terms of self-reliance. Gardening is also a very rewarding skill. Watching the product of your labor grow before your eyes is very satisfying. Gardening is often the starting point for a homestead, and for good reason. It involves less risk and investment than many other aspects of homesteading, such as animal care, and will provide a very valuable product. The next item on the list is animal care, and this is the only possible optional skill on this list, depending on, once again, your goals. Many homesteaders keep animals for food, milk, offspring sales, and companionship. It is important to learn how to care for these animals well, including how to feed them, groom them, and provide for their basic needs. Add successful breeding and raising those animals from birth and later processing them humanely, and you'll have practically an endless supply of healthy animals and healthy products for your family to enjoy for years to come. There are a lot of skills that fall under the umbrella of animal care, including hoof trimming, wool shearing, parasite management, first aid, basic vet care, and birthing. Depending on the type of animal you have will depend on the skills you will need to acquire. But all animals require some level of skill. From the relatively easy to care for chicken to the horse, there's always something to learn. Next on the list is building and carpentry. Basic building skills will become very important for homesteading. While you can hire labor for some large projects, basic projects should be done by you. Building a fence, a chicken coop, or a basic small barn can all be easily done by you with very basic skills. The more skills you acquire, the better the buildings, but basic buildings do work. Most animals simply need a 3-sided shelter, and that is a very simple build. And if you can learn to build with scrap materials for cheaper, it'll save you even more money. Next on the list is first aid. Basic first aid is mandatory for anybody who will be working around materials such as screws, nails, and power tools, but also animals. First aid for yourself is important, but it's also important for your animals. It's a skill you should learn that will no doubt save a life one day. And with all the strained medical systems we have, it is more important now than ever, with the delays in a medical professional becoming an everyday occurrence. Next on the list is water management. Water is a precious resource, and it's important to know exactly how to collect it, store it, and purify it for use. This can include installing a rainwater harvesting system, drilling a well, or installing a water tank. It can also include using a water filter surface flow management system of streams and creeks, or even developing a complex pond ecosystem. It can add dividends to any well-managed homestead. Remember that water is life, and without it, you simply won't succeed. If you plan to do any major crop development or animal operation, you will need a source of water. You can't depend on rain to be successful, and you'll need a reliable way to obtain water away from your primary water source. Whether you catch it, pump it, or just move it, you will need to have a plan. As a homesteader, there is no more valuable resource than water. Next on the list is food preservation. There may be many ways to preserve food, including canning, drying, and freezing, among others. Learning these skills and obtaining the tools you need to do that will help you make the most of your harvest and ensure that you have a steady supply of food throughout the year and not just in the summer. After all, what good is growing all your own food if you can't preserve it to eat it later when you actually need it? It can also ensure that you have something to trade with others if the need ever arises. Depending on what type of food you are looking to preserve and how much work you want to do, you might find one method is easier than another. For example, if you want to can chicken and green beans, it is important to invest in a high-quality pressure canner that meets safety standards. On the other hand, if you are looking for a simple sugar-free way to preserve strawberries or blueberries over the long term, freezing is likely the best option. Ultimately, preserving food can help you reduce your grocery bill and stay healthy throughout the year, and it just takes a little bit of planning, organizing, and patience. Next up is bartering and entrepreneurship. Homesteading is a business, and you will need business knowledge and bargaining ability, or homesteading will never become more than just an expensive hobby that you will most likely burn out on. Spend some time researching the value of your services and products and learning how to market yourself and those products to others in order to make your homestead a profitable and self-sustaining venture for your family. You need to know the value of your crops or your skills, like wool shearing, in order to be able to market them fairly. Everything has value, but value can change. You need to know your market and know your true value and the value of the items you have.